education and employment go hand in hand. You can't just educate people to, like he said, to pass the exams. You have to train them to what they are going to do.
Comes to power as a prime minister, I would just like them to hold press conferences, because in these 5 years, not once did our prime minister speak to the public.
Hello and welcome to another new episode of Election Talkies. And today we have with us students from across Chennai, college students. So with over 15 million young voters in this election, so definitely India's young population is going to be a huge deciding factor. And just one day before the first phase of polling begins, let's hear their take. So all of you are young time voters. Anybody is a first time voter here? All of you? You're not a first time voter. Exception. Even I'm a first time voter. Okay, so what are your immediate concerns? And because in another year or two, some of you have already landed jobs. So what are your concerns that you want politicians to address?
I think as a final year graduate who is moving into the industry, I think about 50% of my problems are already addressed by the current government, because I feel that the policies of encouraging entrepreneurs and this whole startup culture that's like going all through the country, and 5 years before there were no people talking about startups much like they are doing now. Today, like every other person, every other graduate has the confidence that he can go out and start his own business. And I think it has got a lot to do with the reforms that have been created, that has been making India basically a region that is very easy to carry out the business culture. The ease of business index of India has vitally improved. It's very evident that it has improved. It has come into top 100 from it was beyond 100. So I think 50% of my problems are sorted there, because as a person who is moving into the industry, you obviously want to grow more, grow to your supreme potential. So in order to do that, you need a proper backing from all the organizations and institutions that are lying behind you, who are responsible for providing you the assistance to do it. So I think, yeah, that's pretty much covers all my bases. The other 50%, yeah, there is lack of unemployment, but according to me, that's much of a global scenario than a country-wise scenario. And the current policies that have been implemented, I'm pretty much happy about it, because it's basically like drinking water. You drink water every day, but you see the results down the line of the benefits of drinking water, like your hydration level is improving. So I think it's basically that phenomena, that this whole culture of bringing FDI and having this Make in India, introducing multiple projects into the infrastructure field, the logistic department has boomed. So I think it's a slow process, and down the line the other 50% also, which is a concern right now, will be addressed. So that's pretty much from my point of view on how I perceive this current election as, because I'm moving into like from a student life to a corporate life. So that pretty much sorts out my concern. Yeah.
So I think government, instead of giving reservation on marks, they could subsidize the education. That would be like a good improvement in the overall education system. There is no use of reserving marks and all for specific cash, because instead of reserving, you can subsidize the education. There is no use of giving 6,000 rupees to a family. That is for probably under what do you say, under some severe circumstances. So even if there is some good schemes in central government, it is not reaching the state government. State government is having its own pattern of education system that is not with sync with the central government. So let me get into the scenario of Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu has a separate education system, that is the Tamil Nadu State Board. It is in a very low end right now. It will be very hard for Tamil Nadu students to compete in JEE or NEET or any other national level entrance examination, because the entire system is very old. That is the reason. So I think there should be a communication gap between the central government and the state government schemes. In that way, people will get more affected by that.
Regarding to the education system, as my friend said, it should not be reserved for specific castes and be subsidized. I completely agree with that. Although along with that, the education, I mean the subjects which are to be taught in the school, like for example, we have streams like commerce and arts and science and everything, and then these subjects, these could be improve with better teachers, and the content which is given in these textbooks and all of those study materials could be better improved by the government itself. Like most of the time I hear my teachers telling me, all right, go get a book of some foreign authors, or you can get this guide from this place, or you can do that, instead of promoting the mentality of getting books from foreign authors and all that. You can improvise the system by encouraging more people to do higher education like research and everything on a particular stream, so that we can have more authors from and in and around the country than the foreign authors. So that's what I feel.
These are the issues he finds in the current education system. So, what are your issues with the present system, and what do you want to be addressed?
We are being pushed to take foreign authors' publications into our curriculum. So I want to pretty much address that, because it was pretty evident for all this while when I was doing my engineering also. But over past couple of years, the government, after launching the Ramanujam scheme and this research fellowship scheme, so what basically it has done is, like, if you see the tax report of this year actually, which Arun Jaitley brought out, from cess is a tax that you give for the education purpose. It was increased from 3 to 4%. So the idea of increasing that was not to actually like have a proper budget for education, but have a powerhouse, like inbuilt powerhouse within the government, so that you can aid the education. So the plan is to aid that in the field of getting the foreign like foreign people, basically people who are doing research in the top universities across the world, bring them to our country, like lure them into such research fellowship programs that will make them come to our country, get a proper stipend or the monetary fund that they're getting, and then when they are established in our country, it helps students like us and many more of us to actually go approach them, have people like them in our circle to actually interact with them. So I think on that front, I think the government has taken some step, which was the demand for quite some time now, but now I think there are steps being taken in that direction. So it's a very good thing to, and like I said, the results will be prominent in the upcoming time, because it just started and it's a very good policy and it should be beholden.
I do agree with the fact that the current government has come forward to invest a lot in research fellowship. Especially, I think it helps people who are pursuing their PhD research. There is a lot of funding from the government side, and which is encouraging to the scholars. But I don't think that the government is addressing the fact that once we finish the education and we come out, the kind of jobs that is available for us. In the current manifesto, we see that both the major parties, Congress and BJP, they are proposing schemes that will encourage entrepreneurship. But once again, I think we must not fail to realize that this is divisive, because entrepreneurship is not for everybody you meet in the road. It's not for people from all walks of life. Entrepreneurship is for somebody who already has the ability to establish themselves, or who has some access to wealth from which they can draw upon. Although the government manifestos, the election manifestos say that the government is coming forward to fund, I still doubt if there's a possibility for all people to get access to such schemes, because usually there is this division between students from urban communities and rural communities, and I sort of believe that although people from urban communities might benefit out of these schemes, it's a high you cannot really say that people from rural backgrounds will be able to enjoy the benefits of such schemes in the same pace. And I think as a student who is like completing her education and coming out into the society after a long period of schooling and college, I think we've like spent a long time in closed environment. And one of the issues I have with the party, with the with the kind of governance that we have right now is that the government is catering a lot to the majority, and there is a lot of violence in minor scale against minorities. And I think this is something that needs to be addressed as immediately as possible, because violence against minorities trickles down and it affects minorities in all areas of life. Even if you belong to a minority community, and let's say as a student I avail government's funds, and then I might start my own entrepreneurship, my own company, but that does not make me it does not protect me against the violence that is happening here and the discrimination that is on board right now. So I think there is an immediate need to address the issue of violence against minorities and discrimination against minorities.
I think there's a dearth of seats. There's a huge dearth of seats. There are several colleges, but there are only a few colleges that people want to be going to, and each of those colleges have only about 50 seats. So it's a rat race for that. But at the same time, the colleges which rank low, they don't get filled. They have to take people who may not be qualified into the colleges. So I think that they need to start increasing seats. This also ties in with the reservation debate. People keep saying that we should stop reservations because students should come in because of merit. But I think we're fighting over crumbs. If there are only 50 seats, we shouldn't be asking for no reservations. We should be asking for more seats. But we don't really do anything about that. What the government keeps doing is it keeps opening more colleges, but it doesn't make sure if it is going to be run properly, if the quality is going to be good enough. So I think they should focus on increasing the seats. And the BJP manifesto had something about that, about increasing seats in engineering, management and law universities, but none of the other manifestos had that.
In a school, if you score only 95 and above, you can get into a science group or something. A student who wants to get into a science group but hasn't got a proper score, he couldn't do what he wants to pursue. Like, you need to change the basic system of education first. It started with Macaulay's system, but it's very very old now. That started because of colonization, due to British rule. We are still following it. Why do you want to still follow it? You need to make a lot of changes. Government has to make a lot of changes. We can only say what do we need, but the action has to be done by the government.
To add to that, I was someone who was part of IIT coaching institutes, and I think they highly need to be regulated. They charge exorbitant fees, and the way they function is detrimental to students' health. It leaves them fractured mentally, and I know that because a lot of my friends have been part of it, and they're not regulated at all. Their fees are extremely high. That also brings in a class barrier because not everyone can afford that, but you need that to get into it. If someone else is getting that but you can't access it, there is a class barrier, and that needs to be regulated. But the government doesn't do anything about that. It's blatantly immoral how they are functioning. So I think there should be some talks about that as well.
I think when we do all these discussions, we just forget the root cause, that the educational institutions that we have right now are not doing their jobs. As in, one of the studies recently discovered that students in middle school in India cannot read primary school textbooks, which shows the pathetic state of our education system. And one of the ways that people are trying to eliminate problems in colleges is through increasing the number of seats in the prestigious institutions. And I don't really think that is the solution, because it is not catering to the root cause. The reason why people prefer staying in all of these top ranking universities is because the universities that come under the top ranking universities, the local universities, are not good enough. So I think instead of starting new IITs and IIM branches, it would be better if the government starts focusing on the regional institutions and providing funds to both at all levels, and then improving the structures of such universities and the functionings, and in such a way students do not have the pressure to pursue their education only in these top universities. But then I think the promise of the coming government should be more about strengthening the local institutions rather than perpetuating the ideal state of the top universities like IIT and IIM. Education must be accessible to people from all quarters in life.
So actually, I think that there are like two tiers of education. There is CBSE, ICSE, and other boards, and lower tier all the state boards, because every state has its own board of education. So the thing is, the BJP, the Congress, or its allied partners, DMK or ADMK, in case of Tamil Nadu, what they are doing is they are either concentrating on the higher end. They are making us to implement the CBSE syllabus into the state board syllabus, which is going to be hard. Or they are giving subsidies and reservation to the existing pattern. So there is a guide way where the lower end comes to the higher end. So we need a path, or we need an education system that provides us the stairway to the higher end, instead of just aligning towards the upper or lower. So we need an education system that helps us to grow from what we are. The level which we are in.
You can't start from juice. You have to start from your bread and butter. So I think when you get your bread and butter sorted, that's when you go one level higher. So India, I think before 90s we were a socialist country, basically, prominently, and then we saw this period of moving into this mild capitalism. But what I like about the current government, there are kind of negativities that come in, like she addressed about the minority issue, but I think the aggressive capitalist approach of the current government is going to yield us better. Now coming back to her point of the prominent institutes that are like not being addressed, and like she also brought this up, that all the colleges are being opened rashly and there's nothing much being done on the ground level. So recently you would have heard of this Geo university thing. So does this
The government is planning more such institutions of eminence, like you said.
like National Institute of Eminence. So under that scheme, they have marked around 6 to 7 colleges as of now. Geo University hasn't opened, but they have marked it. So they are gonna like start it on those standards. But I think somewhere it's a good initiative to start with. But I think a better suggestion would be, like, let's say where does Tesla headquarters stand today? It's right next to MIT's campus. And where does like all the prominent industries are? Like, I'm talking about the research and development industries, not the prominent service industries. So they are all somewhere in the close vicinity of a prominent institution, because education and employment go hand in hand. You can't just educate people to, like he said, to pass the exams. You have to train them to what they are going to do. And I think in India, having research and development institutes along with the prominent institutions in the country, because I think the government scheme of launching institutes of eminence has helped us identify those institutes. So let's give a trivial example to it. Let's say IIM Ahmedabad, it was coming under UGC. So if UGC is laying a metric for, say, proper business schools, even IIM Ahmedabad is going to fall into that category. But now when you are introducing a new institution of eminence, for institution like that, they're gonna work on themselves, because IIM Bangalore right now is the only institute from India that comes under top 200 institutes in the world. Where does all these prominent institutes that students inside the country fight for? One could die to go to IIT. But what's the bigger picture? They are not even in the top 200 institutes in the world. So I think the key focus is on bringing those institutes on the global platform. And I think it has started, but I think there should be more focus on collaborating with the research and development institutes, so that the prominent institutes in the country will gain that respect on a global platform, and that's when these state and regional institutes will follow. Because what's the saturation point of the regional and the state institutions? It's the prominent institutions that are there in the country. But when they are not up to the mark on the global level, how can you actually look up to them? So I think that would be, it has started, and that I think merging them with the research and development wing would be a good choice.
But fundamentally, we agree that the education system is flawed, and they've not really spoken about school education much, right? Like they said, they're introducing more KVs, more Kendriya Vidyalayas. But you brought up a lot of points. So coming to education and employment once again. So since we're in Tamil Nadu, and they promised to abolish NEET, because that is so. What's your take on that?
Let me tell you about NEET. NEET is something like a common entrance examination that is common to all. So this is an important genre of education. Medical education is a top. It should be the top priority of our government. So what the DMK government is saying in its manifesto is that it is saying that it wants to abolish NEET. So what will happen? Like it is medicine. It is not engineering, or it is not some other genre of education. You can't tell a surgeon, tell a undereducated brain surgeon to do an operation on that on a human being. It's a life. So you can't bring down the standards of the education just because people weren't prepared for that test. You have to, like, there should be a stairway. Instead of you pushing to the higher tier or giving us reservation in the present education system, you should provide us a way so that the lower people can reach the higher level and the higher people can perform very well. So I think abolishing NEET would be a major problem in Tamil Nadu and all the other states which protest NEET.
So you're basically saying abolishing the entrance test is not the solution, but giving them training so that they can be on par with everybody else. But you realize that the main reason why we're talking about abolishing NEET is because of the unfair education system and the privileges those who speak English and have an English education have. So what sort of measures do you think? Like you said, the stairway to reach the common end.
Let me tell you like a few examples of what our central government did and it didn't reach the state government. So the UPA government before 2014, it introduced massive online open courses. It is partnered with IITs and IIMs, and they introduced a lot of courses which are really good. It's even foreign people are using our courses, but our people aren't using that resource. And there's a lot of coaching centers, and they are hiking the fees like anything. It is even costing more than the education of our schools and institutions. And the government, it is not subsidizing these institutions. They are charging 18% GST on all the tuition fees and all, even in online courses and all. You can cut off all the the taxes on education system, and you can bring down the fares. And there is a lot of open source education system there. I mean, you can use open source resources, and you can help those people in need. There is enough resources. The problem is that the resources isn't reaching the end user. That is the problem. So that is the issue.
So I remember when I was doing my school, there was this whole thing called CCE, Continuous Comprehensive Evaluation. So what problem it was doing to us is that till 10th, it was all about writing 2 or 3 chapters for exam, having no clue about what lies ahead. And when you moved from 10 to 11, there was this huge transition where you are like loaded with the syllabus, and on top of that, if you want to make a career, you have to write one entrance exam, you have to prepare for that. So all of a sudden, the agenda of the government was to lower the burden from a young student's head, but it was actually backfiring as such, because when the student moved from 10th to 11th, it was actually of no good use. Like, you look back at CC, it was of no good use. So I am not in support of the current education system that there is as of now. There are amendments that are to be made, that should be made, but I think that scrapping CCE was a good decision by the government. CCE had no point. And again, talking about the NEET thing. So there's this institute called National Testing Academy on those lines. Yeah. So they have introduced that recently, in which JEE and NEET will come together now. So basically the whole facade of NEET that was there in the country, and there's the suicide that was happening, there was some random issue that was happening in North also, in South also. So bringing those exams into one organization that's responsible only for conducting those 2 tests throughout the year is actually, it's like introducing modularity into the education system. Earlier, CBSE was the institution. What and all will CBSE take care of? It will take care of laying the syllabus right from 6th standard. That's when they prominently start doing it. Then conducting exams, giving instruction, training teachers, training this, training that. And on addition to that, they had things like JEE and NEET on their hands. And let's face it, a human being can't be a professional who will also conduct exams and will also, lay out syllabus and lay out the rules. So bringing them into one organization that is solely responsible for conducting tests, and now they are taking NEET online also. They had not taken it fully online, but now they are taking NEET online, which has again reduced this problem of papers getting leaked. Like over past 4 years, in 2 years, NEET has been conducted twice. and the reason for that was paper getting leaked, something was happening, some issue was coming up. So I think slowly getting resolved. I think making NEET, introducing NEET itself was a good idea. Scrapping all the other medical entrance and having a common medical entrance was a good idea. And other thing I want to talk about is JEE. So earlier, I remember when I was writing my JEE, there was this board marks that was considered, and then there was this JEE mark that was considered. For CBSE students, it was a boon basically, because for CBSE students, the marginalizing the score and then your normal percentile was better when compared to other state boards. So if you look at state boards in Rajasthan or UP or those areas, students there actually aren't able to score much, and that has also got to do with the fact that those students, they're not students who are going to school because their parents are sending them. They're going to schools for survival. They're going to schools because they want to crack those entrance exam and go and study college. So that was a big boon, that the board marks and that whole normalization thing that was there was scrapped. So again, it was a good step that was taken. I think I'll try to relate this. No, it's a very vague relation. But then when UPA government implemented these things, it was more like what happened to demonetization in case of BJP. It's just that fundamentally the students were not ready to take JEE, NEET or CC in that sort of way. Like how people were not ready to take demonetization. So I think on one front it's a good thing, one front it's a bad thing. You just have to work around it. So
I wrote CLAT online last year. My computer shut down for 30 minutes. I lost 10 minutes of my time, and that's a lot of time considering it's 200 questions in 120 minutes. I lost 10 whole minutes because all the computers were shutting down. Everyone was going to one computer and looking at the questions. Everyone was copying. This was how the exam was conducted last year. So this year they've made it an offline exam. So this is just to point out how we are a country which is supposed to be great at tech. We produce the most number of engineers, I'm sure, but we don't have enough proper computers to conduct exams. Another thing I wanted to talk about was how you talked about how there is not enough focus on liberal arts. There are, under the CBSE list of subjects, there are close to 40 subjects. But how many schools do we see which have any streams other than science and commerce? I think I can only name three or four schools in Chennai which even have humanities. Even government schools don't have humanities. So what about, why do we have these 40 subjects in our list if no school has that? And no one even knows that we have these subjects. So there should be more awareness about that, and there should be accessibility. I understand that not all of these subjects can be in the same school, but there should be at least one school, at least two schools in every city that have these subjects divided. It's unfair for students who want to pursue those things, but they don't even have the knowledge that they exist.
I would like to talk about NEET because right now I don't really have a standpoint in NEET. I'll tell you why. One of the main allegations against NEET is that the problem with NEET is that it's catering to students who come from a particular social background. As in, if you are a person, and if you want to take up medicine and if you want to crack NEET, you will have to go through a process of training, which is like a parallel education from your school. You need to go to training institutes, and they teach you a set of curriculum, especially for state board students, because NEET is not based on the lines of state syllabus. So this is not something that everybody could afford. It's something that people only from the upper classes can. The main issue is like when you nationalize a test for medicine, especially medicine, because it's a fantasy education or that people wish to pursue. Any kid from any part of India is going to tell you that my future ambition is to become a doctor. And this does not include kids only from upper classes. It's kids from rural scenario, kids from lower classes and lower castes especially. So when you have a centralized test like NEET, which is going to have the same testing pattern throughout the country, especially when we do not have reservations, it's at the end of the day, it's going to be like only these upper class students are going to get seats, and they're going to go around. And it's not just as if it's one particular state where people are going to go and get their seats at. It's like throughout India. you're going to have only the people from upper socio-economic backgrounds who are going to be placed in these colleges. So let's say you have a state like Bihar where your normal student is not as rich enough, or as does not have enough facilities to train for the NEET exams. Then in those states, all the students who are going to occupy the colleges there are going to be students from other states. And once again, the output that we are going to get, these doctors are not going to stay there and serve there. And the need, and we have a desperate need for doctors in India. The rate of doctors that we have, number of doctors we have serving per 100 people is like very low, and we need doctors. And the issue with training only people from upper middle class sections is that they are not going to go back to the states where they had their education and serve the people there. And a current trend with doctors these days is like they get their education here and they travel abroad and they work there, which is not really a positive trend, because people here in India, we need doctors, and training people from one socio-economic background is not really the thing that we need right now. So NEET does not work in that perspective. So that is the negative aspect in NEET. But another thing is we do need NEET in a way that this avoids the fact that people who have have enough marks do not get into medical colleges. Like people, if you work, it means that if you work hard, you get into these colleges, but this is not true in all cases, especially if you are a student from lower economic background. Here in Tamil Nadu especially, people do not address these issues. The concentration is mostly on the suicide of the girl, and people are politicizing the issue without really regarding the different aspects and debating on it. It's made more into an emotional phenomenon than a thing which has to be analyzed from a logical perspective. So I think we need a debate on NEET, and NEET, even if implemented, has to be revamped. The structure has to be revamped completely, and we do need reservations. As far as my perspective regarding reservations go, we do need reservations. So with a lot of revamping, I think NEET will work. But as of now, currently, I don't really think it's a positive trend.
The problems you mentioned with NEET are a problem with CLAT as well. There's a huge class barrier on law entrances, because you can only get in if you have a great grasp of English. Like I mentioned already, it's 200. One test has 200 questions and you have to attend it in 120 minutes. The other has 150 questions and you have to attend it in 90 minutes. And you have paragraphs of legal scenarios that you have to go through, read quick enough, comprehend it, and then do it. So people from lower class backgrounds, they will find it intensely hard to do that. For me, considering I have had an English medium education, my class affords me the opportunity to know good enough English, it's easy for me. That's a huge problem that's gone. But for those people, they have to take a separate training just for that. So I think the exam should be changed in such a way that we can have a better diversity in a field such as law, which is supposed to have proper representation from all social groups. But we don't have that. Even the reservation policies in these colleges isn't good enough. They only have SC/ST reservations, and that to a very, very small percentage. What they do have is a huge state reservation, which I don't know about that. But there are huge class barriers in this field, and I think something should be done about that.
Even people who write NEET and they do not get a high score, what they do, they just go to some private universities, they pay crores of cash, and they just join that university. And these people are the kids of really higher class people, like really rich kids. So these kids, they just get the degree, but they don't get the knowledge. So these people don't have the knowledge. So for that, the government should first, restrict such private universities on accepting the admissions or accepting students with low scores, and also the talking about the format of NEET. These like when a person selects science, like pure science, biomath, so they know that, like, okay, I'm gonna become a doctor. Like, that's my ambition. So what the government has to do, it has to regulate a proper syllabus which focuses on cracking the NEET exam.
I completely agree with his point of students getting to learn how to crack those exams, but I have a slightly different perspective of it. So basically, I'll take from my example of a case where I'm an electronics and communication engineer. And basically, if I was told when I was finishing my 12th, that what electronics and communication has in store for you, I would have probably reconsidered my decision. It was like marketed to me. It was basically people market things to you. So basically, the thing that was marketed to me was if you take electronics and communication, you might end up with a private job or a government job. You can end up both the ways. So I was like, okay, fine, because as a kid, you lure to such things. Whatever people market to you, you buy it. But then the sensible thing would have been to go out there, maybe take a textbook of electronics and communication and just know if that thing is reaching you. So that education is very important. So what I would suggest to do is, when people are in 12th, schools as such should take the initiative of taking people to colleges for visits, getting them to interact with college students, getting them to know the college culture of what they want to do. Then only a student can decide what he or she wants to do. Because like, if I wanted to study, say, law or literature, like, somebody should have taken me to law colleges or literature colleges to know what exists in store for me. Because a lot of students like me in India are blindfolded in their school days, because for them there are only two ways: you either become a doctor, you become an engineer. So basic, and that's this thing that's being said. There are movies being made on it, there are people ranting on social media about it, there are long posts about it, all well and good. But then where is the solution to this problem? The solution to this problem is finding and helping the students in different ways that could help them get a clear picture of what lies ahead of them.
Something that no one addresses is how important gender sensitization is at the school level. We don't have any, even that one chapter in bio we have about sex, even that is taught so, like, it's one period and it's so theoretical. Yeah, exactly. It's completely awkward. But other than this, as a queer woman, I found it so hard during school because I had no resources to access from a place that was supposed to teach me things. And it's not just about access to resources, because at least the class I belong to, I mean, I have access to resources through the internet. But what about government schools? It should be mandatory to teach all of this to students. And there should also be rules against discrimination in school against queer people, because teachers themselves do it. Teachers themselves perpetuate this whole climate of hatred, to disgust towards queer people. And from all the manifestos released this year, only CPIM had mentioned this in their manifesto. Congress had one line about, I don't know what they had. It was something, they just mentioned LGBTQ, but it wasn't anything. Only CPIM had a proper detailed list of things that need to be done with regards to education related to LGBTQIA+ in schools. And I think that's very important. I understand that only last year we even decriminalized it, so it's gonna be a slow process, but we have to start somewhere. And this is very important because I know a lot of people who've been severely harmed because no one talks about it. People need to talk about it, and it should be institutionalized in schools.
I think the problem with institutionalizing LGBTIQA based education in schools is that the teachers themselves are not aware of these things. So I think it's dangerous to implement these at school levels right now. They have to be implemented, but not right now, because there is this chance where teachers might use this as a chance to perpetuate negative ideologies and to perpetuate a false image in the minds of the students. So as of now, I think most of the teachers are conservative. So I wouldn't trust, if I have a child who I put to school, I wouldn't trust a conservative teacher to teach all these in a classroom to my child. So there are a lot of things. We need sensitization at all levels, and then finally implementing it at school to children, because at the end of the day, it's the adults who are teaching the children.
I never had the thought that the teachers would be teaching, because I understand completely. They are terrible at this. I was thinking more like trained professionals could come and No, it's not like a year-long class. It's just a one orient. Like, you know how in 8th grade they just take the girls separately to teach them about menstruation, and even that they do in such a secretive manner. It's hilarious. So, but it shouldn't be done like that. Like, that's one thing. Second thing is, of course, no teacher should be doing it. There should be trained professionals who should be coming and doing this. I understand that we're still in that stage, but talking about it legitimizes it, and that is one thing all queer people need, like their identities to be legitimized. So yeah, not teachers but someone who's trained at it.
Somebody who's well qualified.
Yeah, exactly.
Point. It's not only about teachers. I think even I know I'm going too ahead with it, but I think parents should also be educated about it, because I think it's important for them to understand the environment in which their children are growing and what are the changes that are happening, like in the world right now. Because let's face it, a lot of parents still think that whatever education system or whatever pattern they had in their days, it's still being followed, but that's not the case. So I think, yeah, teachers, yeah, they should be training. They are being trained, but nobody talks about parents also being educated about these things. Like, a lot of parents even think that LGBTQ is just, there's some taboo, you're not supposed to talk about it. Like, I remember at my home when this news was coming on news channel, my mom had no clue what was that about. So and I think those are the issues that I think, because it's not their fault also. When they were studying, it was like, it's not even spoken about. At least in 8th standard, like, my batch girls were taken out, but I don't think it was there in my parents' batch that they were taken about and educated on those issues.
School level education fails to do is it doesn't sensitize us on caste issues. Like a month ago, there was this news. There's this one chapter in 10th grade where they have 2 paragraphs about caste with respect to clothes. That was the only thing in our in the CBSE curriculum that talked about caste. The other places where it talked about that was in civics in 8th grade, where they teach you about reservations and laws protecting scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So if at school level you don't sensitize kids to the issues of caste, and they will grow up to, and like the current government, it has created this whole climate of hatred, and it's easy to buy into it when you do not have that kind of sensitization, when you're not taught why caste is an issue, when you have no idea about it. For the longest time, I thought reservations were bad, they were detrimental, but then I sat and read a lot about caste issues, and then I realized they are important. But I had to do that on my own. School didn't teach me.
Lynching thing, this cow beef ban, I think those were the unnecessary things. And I think India's because India's ranking in the democratic countries has taken a dip on a global level because of these issues.